welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. I mentioned some of the sports activities, everything that's going on here this week and what took place last week. Right now, we have the Mountain West Conference Tournament in full swing. The semifinals are tonight at the Thomas and Mack Center. We have the West Coast Conference Tournament. Some teams in action tonight. I believe San Francisco's playing tonight. That's at the Orleans. And then, of course, Gonzaga, BYU, St. Mary's. This is a great conference and a great tournament. It's actually my favorite tournament of the year to watch because I like the environment there at the Orleans. Then next week at the Orleans, the WAC comes to town. So we're going to watch that. I always like to watch Dan Marley on the sidelines as the head coach of Grand Canyon. And we'll have the Pac-12 at the T-Mobile Arena. Last weekend, up there in Summerlin at the beautiful ballpark, we had the Indians and the Oakland A's playing in that place where the Aviators play. And then this weekend, Big League Weekend continues. It is with the Chicago Cubs, fan favorites here in Las Vegas, and the Cincinnati Reds. So this is awesome. What better place to watch these games than this beautiful new ballpark in Summerlin? And the man who joins us on the line right now is the president of the Aviators. Always love to have him on. That would be Don Logan. Don, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing great.
Doing great, Don.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. I guess my first question to you is, have you had a chance to talk with some of these major league players? I would imagine last week the Indians and the A's. What were some of their thoughts on this place that they were playing in? I mean, because I would imagine some of them, probably all of them, have never seen this ballpark before. What were they telling you?
Well, I mean, a lot of them actually had played for or against us at Cashman Field. A lot of the coaches and even a lot of the players, and just astounded. Sandy Alomar was he was here managing the Indians, and Sandy played at Cashman. He was probably the best player we've ever had. He had back-to-back minor league player of the year seasons in '88 and '89, and he walked in, and I can't tell you exactly what he said, but it was. And then he was on the visiting side locker room, and then I took him over to the home side, and he told me that there's not 5 places like that in all of baseball, which there isn't. I mean, that was the intent. It had to be, from a player development standpoint, the player amenities had to be top notch. We are, and again, it's one of those things that we do have the best facility in certainly all of minor league baseball, and one of the finest facilities, period, in baseball, if not the finest. So we're very lucky.
Don, that's got to feel very rewarding for you, because here you are as the president of the Aviators team, and this is it. This is your place to play. When you have a guy like an Alomar and some of these major league players come up to you and are thrilled, at this place where they're playing, I mean, that's got to feel pretty good for you and your organization.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the things. We waited a long time. It was obvious going back into the late '90s that Cashman was great from a lot of perspectives. It was always safe, and it was always clean. The part of town where it's located really started to deteriorate, and it got difficult. It didn't have amenities, the things you couldn't fix without just knocking it down and starting over. And that, the LVCVA was a fantastic landlord, and they went from being a landlord to being a naming rights partner, which was it saved them a lot of money and got the fans of Southern Nevada the type of place they deserve to watch baseball. And it was, we waited a long time to get it done, but in doing so, we got to really. There was a lot of new ballparks built around the country. We got to visit them all. We got to, I went to games in all of them and talked to the people, that ran the clubs, both major league and minor league, and really, we've got elements, the best of the best. And again, now that's my opinion. So
no, I agree. Listen, Don,
I think it's the best bet, but I've been doing this a long time, so I've been
in Vegas for 20 years. Don, you're 100% right with what you're saying. He's Don Logan, the Aviators president. Let's talk a little bit just outside the ballpark, for that matter. From a minor league perspective, it's not often that you get to stay in luxurious hotels, and I would call Red Rock exactly that. I would imagine a lot of the away teams that come into town are just absolutely flabbergasted, and they enjoy the fact that many of them get to stay at Red Rock Casino. I will also say downtown Summerlin is beautiful. You get to walk outside the ballpark, and you get to go to all these shops, and it's safe. listen, you couldn't do that in years past, really, because that area outside the stadium, I would say, not exactly was the safest. It was safe in the stadium.
You wouldn't want to walk through there, no.
Right, exactly. So talk a little bit about that. I mean, you got Red Rock Casino, which is right there in downtown Summerlin.
Well, and Red Rock, the Fertittas and Red Rock, they're one of our founding partners. They bought a suite. They've been, from a promotional perspective, you couldn't have a better partner. From a just a geographical perspective, the place is right here. It's a 5-star, whatever the most stars you can give. I don't even know what the hell it is, but it's
right.
I've heard that it's the best setup in all of baseball in terms of quality of hotel, different types of restaurants. I mean, these guys, if you think about it, they're over here by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they don't get out of here till usually an hour after the game. Mm-hmm. Some guys work out even sometimes after the game. So we're in Vegas, so they can go back over there at midnight, get something to eat. If they want to go roll the bones or play some cards, or if they want to go to the nightclub, have a drink, listen to some music, it's all right there.
No question.
They go to bed. These guys don't get up early. I mean, it's a different lifestyle when you're a pro athlete, but it's the best setup in baseball, and the Red Rock is a big part of that. And then you throw downtown Summerlin into the mix, you got more options right there. You got places. They'll need to go to the Apple store at some point during their stay here to pick up something or to talk to one of the folks. But couldn't be better. I mean, the Howard Hughes Corporation deserves a ton of credit for that.
Sure.
We talked them into doing it here and convinced them that this was going to be a great amenity, and obviously it has worked out that way.
No question. We're talking to Don Logan, the president of the Aviators. Of course, we have the Cincinnati Reds and the Chicago Cubs that are playing at 1 p.m. this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. It looks like it's going to be beautiful weather. I want to ask you a few questions about the Aviators. As the president, let me ask you this. In years past, you were not able to bet on AAA baseball. But, I went to some games last year, and I was talking to some patrons that actually bet on your games. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Do you think it's dangerous to be placing wagers, gambling involved with AAA baseball, or are you completely comfortable with that? What are your thoughts on that people can actually now bet on your games?
Well, I'm a fourth generation Nevadan, so I understand. Well, hopefully, I understand that I'm a terrible bettor. They call me the cooler around here. But,
you and me have something in common, Don.
I understand how gaming works, and those old the fears that go back to the Black Sox. I mean, that's like the 1920s. That it is incredibly strictly regulated. I mean, gaming is you can't. There's no funny business goes on in gaming. The Gaming Control Board, the Gaming Commission, that's one of the reasons Vegas is what it is because we're a legitimate. It's a legitimate business, and all that goes with it is very well. It's just the notion that somebody's going to be able to influence the outcome by coming up and handing these guys a couple $100. I mean, they've all signed for certainly all of them 6 figures, many of them 7 figures. So they've got money in the bank. The major league minimum salary is over $600,000. You're not going to get it. Anybody's going to be able to go, and there's a limit on what they can bet on our games. So there's just no way that you're going to have some nefarious activity come about. And it's all, and again, all those of us that live in Nevada and understand how it works get it. And I think it's fun. I can tell you that a lot of our fans, a lot of my friends love to come to the ballpark, and they stop at Red Rock on the way over and make a wager and come check it out, and that's great. I mean, that's the whole idea, is to create. There's another reason to come out to the ballpark, and it's not a bad thing. It had a stigma about it for so long because people, in the ivory towers back east, particularly in the commissioner's office, just didn't get it, and they're coming around.
And by the way, let me just say for the record, I agree with you 150%. There's nothing better than going to your ballpark, watching some baseball, throw a few bucks on a game just for fun, make the game even more interesting. And
play the over, man. That's what they tell me out here, is everybody's playing the over.
Play the overs, that's right, especially in spring training, by the way. I want to ask you a little bit about, obviously you've talked about this before. I would imagine you've talked to a lot of people about this, the possibility of getting a major league ball club in Las Vegas. I personally believe, Don, the fact that you have this beautiful place now to play, with your organization, the steps that you guys have made, it's going to help eventually bring a Major League Baseball team to Las Vegas. I know this might be a hard question for you to answer based on the facilities you have, the fact that the Knights have been so successful, the fact that we have the NFL in just months coming to Las Vegas. A lot of people say it's just a matter of time before we get the NBA and Major League Baseball. How do you see this thing panning out?
Well, I've been talked to, and have talked about this for 20 years now. And one of the things I said, I remember vividly saying it back in the early 2000s, is the first Major League team in wins, meaning that the first Major League franchise to plant a flag here is going to have it's going to nail the market, and the Knights certainly did that. And I liken it to what the Suns did in Phoenix. I mean, you look at, they were there. The similar markets were probably 30 years behind them in terms of size and development. But the Suns got there, and they can be lousy, and typically are lately. But people go to the games, and now all four sports are down there. I do think it has to be done thoughtfully. It's got to be done with some real, there's data. There's a way to analyze the elements of what you need to do, and I think the most important thing is you got to locate the stadium in the right spot. Do I think it's not a matter of if, it's when. But you got to have the stadium properly located. Baseball's different. You couldn't do a baseball stadium where Allegiant Stadium is. The parking problems, the parking situation they have there. We've got 81 Major League games would be played. You can't expect people to deal with that 81 times. 8 times, no problem. 81, no chance. Even the T-Mobile situation to get in and out. Ingress and egress is incredibly important to getting people to sporting events. So where you put a baseball stadium is critical because of that and because of the number of games we play.
Sure.
I think obviously you got to address the heat. Heat's perception, I think, a lot of times more so than reality. We played New Orleans last year in July, and I don't think I've ever been that miserable. I mean, the guys, bats are flying out of hitters' hands because they're sweating so much. Pitchers are throwing it to the backside. And it was like, it had rained. It was 100 degrees, and it was a 90% humidity. But it's going to happen here. It's just got to be done thoughtfully in terms of where you put it. I think the fact that we have 45 million visitors coming here play. You go to the Knights games. I mean, they're still trying to figure out how to keep the visiting team fans out of there, and it's not going to happen.
No,
Raiders are going to be the same, but more than half the people that have bought tickets for the Raiders are from out of the market.
No question.
But that's what we are. That's good for the town. That's good for the casino business. It's good for the hotel business. It's good for the restaurants. It's good for the shows. That's exactly why you want Major League Sports. And we play in series. That's one of the other things with baseball. You can come here and you're going to get 3 games, sometimes even 4. But the visiting team's fan base is going to be a factor. So you take the 2 million people that live here, the 45 million people visiting. We got 150,000 hotel rooms. It's why the NFL draft's coming here. I mean, we're a sports town. And on top of that, we're a baseball town. Number one, just look around how many players are playing Major League and minor league baseball from here.
Oh yeah, no question. By the way, you mentioned the heat. That's another thing I want to commend about your ballpark is the seats are extremely comfortable. There's a lot of shade there, and that's not by accident. That's on purpose. I think that's a great job what you guys did with the design of this ballpark. I want to ask you one more question. Obviously, I want to promote Big League Weekend. We've got the Cincinnati Reds and the Chicago Cubs, fan favorites here in Las Vegas, I must say, along with the Oakland A's, of course. And my understanding is both games are sold out. Can you talk to us a little bit about this Big League Weekend, maybe some of the pitching matchups? I think they announced some of them already, and just kind of preview what we're going to see starting tomorrow.
Well, the game we've got some tickets left for Sunday. Honestly, Saturday, for our games, we'll sell a couple thousand standing room, like 2,500 standing rooms. I don't think that's fair for these games. It's a Major League game. The ticket prices for the people that have bought seats is, it's higher than normal. I mean, that's one of the bad sides about being up here, by the way, is when we were at Cashman, I could pour mouth these teams and they'd come here for a lot less money, and the word got out. So this is, it's incredibly expensive. I'm still kind of shaken by how much this is costing, but I think we're pretty much done on Saturday.
Is Chris Bryant playing, Don?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Oh, so he'll be in the lineup both days.
Chris and Rizzo.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's one of the other things. This is early in spring training, so you've got guys that aren't 100% physically.
Right.
So that's one of the things you really they're not sure who's coming. But I think one of the things that you're going to see again, and people may not realize this, but the Cubs are going to start a kid named Colin Ray on Sunday. He was the pitcher of the year in minor league baseball in our league last year.
Oh wow!
Pitched against us. Pitched in the big leagues briefly. He's, everybody's worried about the Cubs pitching. Well, come out Sunday and check this kid out. He's legit.
I know I'll be there. I'll be there to see this kid. Yep.
So there's good young pitching. T.J. Antone for the Reds. Alec Mills is a Cubs guy. Another up and coming young guy. Gutierrez again. It's young pitching. The game today, as you know, is really predicated on your bullpen. I don't know. I think what they say, I saw a stat the other day that there was 30. Some team had 30 complete games last year, and at one point, in the Mets in '69 with Seaver and Ryan and Kuzma and all those guys, they had I think 90 complete games. It's crazy the way it's changed.
Well, I gotta tell you something, Don. This is going to be a lot of fun this weekend, and it was fun. It was fun last weekend. You guys have a grade A class act organization. Jim Gem is one of the nicest guys, and he's so good at what he does. I want to commend him as well.
He's all fired up too because the Lakers are good again. You got to give Jimmy a shout out. He loves his Lakers. Right, I know he's fired up.
All right, I'll vouch for Jim. You got to give him a big raise. I had to say that. Now Jim's a great guy. He's one of the best in the business, and we love him. Don, thank you so much for taking some time to join us. Can't tell you how much I've been looking forward to this weekend. Have a great time out there. We'll see you out there, Don. Thank you again.
Appreciate the time. Take care, guys.
All right, you too.
Thanks a lot, Don.
That is Don Logan, the Aviators president. Really knowledgeable too when it comes to Major League Baseball. That's for sure. And these rosters and stuff. Very active president. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it is time for the news with John Schaefer. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.